switched up on the world that's out of control. Many dancing to a simple song. And while the media fills the air, people losing their lives everywhere. Great famine and unfortunately sees lost souls to iniquity. A call received 911 in the red band. Another youth said, my life is a reflection of Jesus.
Now, I have on here with me today Brother Marcus Hogan, and nobody else has chimed in yet, so we're not gonna waste any more time. We're gonna go on and get to talking on some stuff about the real deal. Marcus, how are you doing today? Let the people know how you feel.
I'm blessed. I'm super blessed, and like I tell people, I can't complain because blessed people don't complain.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Tell me the best thing that happened to you during your experiences in Dayton,
Ohio. Well, one of the best things happened to me that I linked up with you, and coming from down south, I came to Dayton, and when I got to Dayton, I was thinking that that would be like a chocolate city. I seen at the time they had a black police chief, and that wasn't nothing that we was used to down in Mississippi. So I was thinking that I was coming there and everything was gonna be high and mighty, and it wasn't like I thought. But when I left home, I mean, I had two of the best parents in the world. And then God just placed me in the company of you and Miss Frazier. And that, I promise that was one of the best things that, for us being away from home with your parents and having that spiritual guidance and spiritual connection. And then going out there and God putting you on a path to somebody that can mold your mind and put you in the same, give you the same encouragement. Gave me a job, and that was one of my best experiences I'll say I had in the Dayton area.
Now, tell me this: leaving up out of Mississippi, what was your? How did you shape that Mississippi orientation that those white supremacists and racist people and discriminatory people? How did you shape that burden that they put on you? How did you break through that ceiling that they had put over you to say that you was just a second-class citizen if your life was like mine in Alabama when I was coming up? How did you shape that?
I shook it by mostly reflecting on, like I say, my parents and people that cared about me, reflecting on what they had told me, and just being in company of good people. And like I say, twisting my mind from going around backwards to keeping it on the straight path. So one of the main thing is that I always tell people is being having role models, positive role models, and you know what I'm saying, that's one of the things that can shape your perspective on life. So that was one of mine. I just had people that cared about me, and I cared about myself. And I didn't want to, it don't matter what nobody, they say it don't matter what nobody say about you, it's what you say about your own self. And how nobody feel about you is how you feel about your own self. So I always felt that it was something, I guess a higher power, it was a better part of me than I wanted to show.
Okay, now in Mississippi, back in your childhood days, who were some of those mentors who shined that you could see that there was some worth in them and there was some strength and courage in them to help you to want to be somebody?
I had a good friend of mine, father, his name was Mr. Odell Gray, and he would always take us out and take us swimming and stuff like that. My father told me that he taught him how to swim. So he was definitely a good role model for me and a lot of people in the community. It was an incident that I had got in, and it was it brought up a lot of racial tension in the community. And this brother, Mr. Odell Gray and his family, they were the only people that ever came by our house and said, if you need anything, we're there for you. I mean, he was the only one. He brought his wife and his kids around there, and they stood in front of the cameras, and the TV crew was all there. And he just declared that if you go down, we going down too. And so that was, I can't say enough about that brother, man. I promise. He dead and gone, rest his soul. But I made sure that every time I had a chance, I would go by there and visit him and take him stuff. And just that kind of people that just, and some of the stories that my father was telling me about his grandparents. Although they was white, they lived out in the area where nothing but white people stayed, and it was some people over there, cutting wood off my grandfather's property, and he waited till they loaded up them ox and loaded up all that wood on the mule wagon. And then he came out the woods with a shotgun and told them that he appreciated them loading up his wood and everything for him, but don't be doing that. So it was just a lot of the stories that my father was telling me about his grandparents and stuff like that made me want to dig down and deeper. Not only that, I was in Ohio. I was in Ohio. I was going to work one day. Over there Wilberforce, and somebody in behind me, they were just flashing their light. I'm like, who is this in behind me flashing their light? So I pulled over there to a little gas station, and the guy said, hey, I had a Mississippi tag on my car. He said, you from Mississippi? He said, yeah. He said, where you from? I said, from Waynesboro. He said, who you know down there? I said, I'm kin to the Hogans. He said, Miss Nina Hogan? I said, yes, sir. That was my grandmother. And he said, that was my school teacher. He said she was a real good woman, and she always looked out for us, and she always made sure that she was real neat and clean, and she made us clean up around, and you would see her walking down through the neighborhood picking up paper and stuff like that. And although I didn't have a whole lot of memories about my grandmother, because she was like, we had moved out to California. We came back. She was like in the rest home, but she passed. But I always wanted grandparents, and I didn't really get a chance to enjoy them or have them around in my life. But I would always hear the stories about them, and I always wanted to meet them. So I just made sure that I wanted to be like them. You know what I'm saying? I wanted some of the stories that people would tell me about my grandparents. I wanted to be a reflection of that.
Okay, that allusion to teachers. Do you remember any teachers that had a positive effect on you?
I will say one teacher, Mr. McNair, he was like an agriculture teacher, and he wanted to make sure that we understood the importance of dealing with animals and agriculture and farm stuff. So Mr. McNair, he was a cool brother, man. I mean, that brother right there, out of all the teachers, I would say I would rank him as my number one teacher that really made sure that young black men get into farming and stuff like that.
Right. Now, how did you get up out of Mississippi? What motivated that move?
My brother was joined the Air Force, and he was transferred to Dayton, Ohio. And I came up there for the one summer, and it was way better than what I was used to down in Mississippi. And I wanted to come up there and kind of see if I can spread my wings out a little bit.
Okay. And then how old were you at that point?
I think I may have been like 19. I was 19 at that time.
So that was showing you a world way beyond Mississippi, right?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's when I said when I came there, I thought I was coming into a chocolate city.
Okay. Now, let's get on into Ohio now. Again, I asked you about the best thing that happened to you in Dayton. Tell me, since this is a Dayton Connection show, what's the worst thing that you discovered in the Dayton area that disappointed you or set you back or whatever?
One of the things that disappointed me was after I got involved with you and the 27 Good Black Men, I was seeing that the struggle that I thought I was leaving, it was you know what I'm saying, it wasn't, it didn't go nowhere. It was still, although like I say, you had a black police chief at the time, Mr. Ron Lowe at the time. I didn't see any of the I didn't see any progress from black people. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see what I thought I came to see. Black people owning a whole lot of stuff and doing a lot of stuff. I seen the same thing, the same rat race, jobs. You know what I'm saying? At that time, General Motors was doing good up there, and I thought maybe if I get on one of these jobs, man, I can crawl to the heavens, man. But I didn't get none of the jobs that I was looking for. And I was like, man, I thought it was gonna be easy when I got up here. But I realized that the rat race is the same no matter where you go. You just got to get in the lane, and I'm in the lane now while I'm walking in the rat race. So that was one of the things I see. I didn't. I mean, I seen that I thought I would see more of. You know what I'm saying? Better conditions of the people.
Okay, now when we look at this system, well, it's a lot of difference between you and my ages. There's 34 years difference between you and I. You at 48, I'm at 82. So certainly we see some things the same and some things differently. Now, a lot of the problems in society has been there forever or have been there forever. And like you alluded to a while back, they're going to be there forever. So now, as Black men, where are we on understanding the role that we have to play for independence and security for our communities, self-reliant within ourselves? Where do you see us at this point as Black men?
I see us further behind now than we was in slavery. I mean, it's sad to see that our Black men don't take a stance against these killings and these murders in our community, and that's just my biggest thing. That's my biggest vocal point. That we as Black men have just allowed ourselves to go so far backwards. I mean, our ancestors, you know what I'm saying? They wish that they could be in this position right here where we at now, but we make them look like they were just hustling in vain and getting hung and lynched and all that in vain. I was looking on my phone, and it was I was looking up and trying to see how many lynchings was in Mississippi, but actually it brought up a number like it was like 3,000 and some total lynchings across the whole South.
Right.
I said, man, I wish that number there was the number that stayed there versus the number of Black men that's killing Black men and children. I mean, that just don't make no sense. In Jackson, Mississippi alone, they already like they had like 140 some murders last year, and now they on the way to outrun that double. And I was also looking at and what shocked me was that Mississippi is the per capita, it's the highest state with the most murders. I was like, no, that ain't that. You don't spell Mississippi with Illinois and New York and California. They, you know what I'm saying? They got this stuff backwards.
What calls us? I know some of the traditional causes.
Hold on, Chief Frazier.
You still there?
All right, Chief.
Are you set?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My speaker came unplugged.
Okay. All right. Well, what causes? I know what the traditional causes were, and I can even think of some things now that can get on a person's call so much that they will get angry and want to do something to somebody. But what do you see as the innate causes of us hating each other to the point that we will get so angry until we can just pick up a gun and go take a person's life? Well, what's going on with that?
It's not enough. It's not enough disciplinary tactics used. I tell people all the time. I said it was such a brutal tactic and mind game that was played on us to make us hate each other. We got to use them same tactics to make us love each other. We got to use that same force, whatever it takes, to drive that ignorance level down. The level of ignorance is so high in the Black community, and the Black leadership is just vacant, you know. And I tell people all the time, I say, man, we don't have to go to war with each other to straighten this stuff out. It's a verse in the Quran where Allah says, go to war with those closest to you first before you try to go fighting somebody else. And if every race take that literally, white people clean up their white people, Mexicans do the same thing, Black people do the same thing, it wouldn't be nothing but a bunch of decent, civilized human beings on the face of this earth. So until Black people just make up their mind that we sick of this, Black men in particular, make up our mind that we sick of this and we ain't gonna take it no more against our own people, we might as well forget about listening at white supremacist stuff and all that. And to me, I pretty much, all that white supremacist stuff, I done blocked that out my mind. I don't even hear it no more, I promise. Until we get this Black ignorance down, ain't no need for speaking on nothing else. You know, Jesus said, get that plank out of your, get that big old plank or stump out of your own eye before you go trying to get it out, get a little bitty speck of dust out of somebody else's eye. So until Black people come to grips with how we gonna bring this level of ignorance down, I mean, we gonna continue to see our babies getting killed. I was looking in the reading on my phone this week. It was 3 guys up there in North Carolina running across a apartment complex, just shooting, killed a mother and a 3-month-old baby. And I mean, I can't, it's hard for me to even sleep at night thinking about this stuff. I go to bed thinking about war against my own people, and I wake up thinking about war against my own people. We are setting ourselves back further and further and further, you know what I'm saying, with this level of ignorance.
Well, you're absolutely right. And I like your concept of war with our own people, because personally, up here where I am in age, with the experiences that I've had, I see white people now in that second Civil War with one another. You know, they were in the first Civil War that luckily and fortunately helped to free us from slavery, even though they were in war for a lot of other different reasons. I see them now in the second Civil War trying to challenge and eradicate that ignorance that exists among these white supremacists that you say you put out of your mind, that I haven't put out of mine, because those were the suckers that was up there in Washington in that insurrection in the Capitol. So they are crazy plus some. And so I see sensible white people at war with them now in the second Civil War to hold them accountable for having the audacity to do what they did. And that's their fight. You know, we may be drawn in at certain levels in the arguments and debates and discussions, but we can't get out there and negotiate and narrate and that kind of thing in their war with one another. So I agree with you for us to condone what we condone among ourselves, for us to make excuses for Black people who are doing stupid stuff systematically and methodically and daily, and we are trying to grab a hold of 2 or 3 wrongs to make it right just because this joker was shot by a police officer while doing these 3 wrong things. We are trying to make old Jody look super good, and we are out in a war with the police, you know. And granted, some of these shootings ought to be, we need to be at war with the police, because shooting people 7, 8, 9, and 10 times and all of that is just not necessary. But I too really wish that we could get past the kinfolk stuff, get past the friends or friendships stuff, get past the greedy selfishness within ourselves that allow us to allow somebody to influence or buy us into wrongdoing, to get past all of the other, as you so eloquently put it, ignorance that caused us to hate each other and condone the wrong among each other, that caused the death and destruction to each other that we are allowing. So now, as a 48-year-old man, still got a lot of youth in you, what's the solution? What do we do from here?
I think the biggest solution to Black people's problem is Black people's problem. I think the Black church have all the solutions to Black people's problems, but they don't offer none of the solution. Until I promise, man, to me it just don't make no sense. We have a church on every corner. We have all these men of God in our community that say that they talk to God, God give them answers and this and that. We have the Black church is probably one of the richest organizations combined on the face of the earth for Black people. And we still have to beg master for loans, for housing, for security, for all these type of things. So until, like I say, we go to war with our own selves and straighten this type of foolishness out that's going on in God's house, man, we're gonna continue to suffer. I mean, I tell people, I say, man, if you let's do this comparison right here. White people say Jesus is white, Black people say Jesus is Black. Okay, we'll say both of them. We'll take their word and we'll keep our word. But if you look at the white Jesus, his people prosper. His people prosper. Why ours don't prosper? It's a survey that they did from the Associated Press. It was done on April something. I have it here in my notebook. But it says Black people overall go to church more and pray more than all Americans. And it's got to be something really, really wrong with that picture for us to go to church, pray more, do more, and get less. I've been to a white church. They in and out of church in about 45 minutes. We go to church, we stay in there all day, have the best food, have the best Holy Ghost time it is, but then we come out, I mean, it's nothing. There's no solutions to our problems. And if I would say, if we brought Jesus to trial, we'll say, man, you've been discriminating against us forever. Well, I mean, why is they getting everything? We ain't getting nothing. And we go to church more, we pray more, we cook better food, we shout and sing better. Why we ain't getting some of these benefits? Then you look at it, I would act as Jesus' lawyer. I would say, well, wait a minute now. I gave you some divine laws. I said eye for eye, tooth for tooth, to clean up this level. It will bring that level of ignorance down. So don't be blaming me. because you don't know how to follow the rules. Don't be blaming me when I said, let me get it right here. When I said, when Jesus went into the temple, the cleansing of the temple, I think most of the people that go to church, they can relate to that. When Jesus went into the temple and he was turning over the stuff, and he said, this house is supposed to be a house of prayer, but you people have turned it into a den of robbers and thieves. And it just don't make no sense that our community is steadily paying into this stuff and we ain't getting nothing out of it. It was a guy I was talking to the other day. He said, man, my grandmother went to this church. She was 90, she was 98 years old when she passed, been going to that church, paying her tithes all her life. He said, I was a young boy. I thought that the church was supposed to take care of like your funerals and all that stuff. He said the preacher came by our house. He did. I give him that. He gave my parents $100. He said, but he charged them $250 to do the funeral. I said, man, it's something wrong with that, man. Our black church is just setting us back, man. It don't make no sense for us to do the most and get the least. And
okay.
it just
Least I go with, but you cut off a couple of your points there with nothing. We have prospered. Now I want to make sure that my old man wisdom make that fact known. We are prospered. We have come a mighty long way from where we were. Now, we are not where we could have been if we had had less fear, less prostitution in our system, whereas we prostitute our principles, greediness and that kind of thing. And that turn of ignorance that we both have alluded to in our articulations here. So we've made some gains, and we have had some people who paid some serious dues, and they are still paying some serious dues. We've had some ministers who have stood up and put themselves on the front line, the Kings and the Shoptons and all of those people, in order to help to educate us and bring us up out of some of the ignorance that we have. We just haven't had enough of the people, to be committed that way in order to make it work the way that it could have worked. Now, I just put together a little book that I published on this police brutality thing that I get tired of hearing people talking about reforming and defunding the police, and they're ignoring the lawyers and the judges and the prosecutors and the state representatives who make laws, and the Senate and Congress who make laws, and the president who sign laws that cause much of what we experienced to trickle down us like it's out of style. But we don't even understand where the misery and the devastation and the suffering is trickling down from. We're so busy pointing at a little police officer on the corner and a little judge sitting over in a chambers, and fussing at them and ignoring the real problem. So let's be careful about how much credit we give us for what we do have and how much criticism we lay out there for what we don't have, in order to make sure that the juice that we squeeze out of the lemon will come out sufficient to make lemonade. Go ahead.
I agree that we done came a long way. But like I said, if our ancestors was to read the paper now and see how far back we is, I mean, for us to do more killings and lynchings and murdering our own people, and we don't have no control of that, or we ain't out there offering no solutions to that problem, or we ain't following God's law. If you don't follow, and I tell people this all the time, I mean, God's law said eye for eye, life for life, Jesus said he didn't come to abolish the law, but he come to fulfill the law. Jesus, like you just talking about a while ago, Jesus was a lawman. He was a lawman. He knew the consequences of following the law and not following the law. If you follow these laws, you will be a successful bunch of people. If you don't follow these laws, he said, I have it wrote out. He said he didn't come to change law, abolish the law. He come to fulfill the law. Anybody who do away with these laws or something like that, I'm not I read it, I understand it, but I don't have it right here. But anybody who changed one dot of these laws have pretty much done away with them. So I think our pastors and preachers need to address these people with these laws, because laws is what keep any law. Every law is designed to keep people in order. If we're not following laws, God's law, the divine law, then man's law ain't no good. One thing that I always
let me interfere with let me interrupt you for a second. Now I want to bring it out of the heavenly spiritual context in which you just placed it, which is absolute, and I want to bring it down to just a common level. Let me tell you what our people are doing. And I'm very critical of our people. I've been out here in the struggle for a long time, but I don't condone stupidity and wrong. Our people are trying to make it look like the law that says that when a police officer put his lights on you, you ought to stop, ought to be ignored, perhaps. Not all of them say this, but too many of them are saying this, because you don't want to stop in a dark place. So you keep on driving when the police officer gets behind you, and you drive until you get to a lighted spot, and then you stop. I hear my people saying if people stop for a tag light being out, well then that's a law, but it's not worth you stopping somebody for. Somebody else can do that. Can you imagine somebody else trying to hold somebody accountable for a tag light out on a street corner now, with us killing each other for nothing? And we could use that as a justification for something. So we are taking laws now and leading our children to believe that they can ignore these little laws that police officers are out here invested with the power to enforce, and then take on the police in the process. So now, and we got Brother Pitts on here now. Welcome, Brother Pitts. How you doing, man? Unmute yourself and tell us hello. You are muted.
Can you hear me, Chief?
Yeah, you're in there now. Welcome, my brother. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine, Chief. I would have been on earlier, but I'm also doing a YouTube thing for some Central State stuff going on that I've got to do some voting on. So I'm kind of tied up between two things. But I just want to address two things. First, this about church, and because as it relates to the church, I heard the gentleman say about church and how pastors this and pastor that, but then he brought up ancestors. Our ancestors survived because of the church and Black love through the church. Otherwise, we would have been separated. Whatever beliefs, because I love me some Elijah. Anyway, I'll leave that alone. But because of some of his beliefs in what's going on in the world, but I believe in follow Jesus Christ. That's neither here nor there, but we survive because of that. Make no mistake about it. Now I want to address this thought on law enforcement. Law enforcement is not going nowhere. They ain't defunded. That's not going nowhere. That's just like saying we're going to not have no United States Army, military, Air Force. They are not going nowhere. And I'm gonna end with this, and that is, in regards to how you feel or the negative aspects of all this stuff is going on. And trust me, I know crooked cops. Trust me. And I don't mean crooked because they got the arguments in their home life and they didn't succumb to the same things that anybody in any family or any social relationship. I'm talking about on a job and being nasty. So we'll forgo that. But until we get more of us in anything, they can put it on paper. You can write an act, make a law. But until you got somebody in the same legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government, you're going to get what you got your hand called for. When we have plenty of people culpable, or let's say not culpable, let's say that, able to do that.
You know,
other than that, we'll just be ruled by the white man. Go ahead, Chief, and I'll submit.
You know, you just made an excellent point about having us in the right place, in the right state of mind to do the right thing, because that George Floyd murder trial of Derek Chauvin up in Minnesota, Keith Ellison just proved that point. Keith Ellison, the Black State Attorney General, being in the right place at the right time, with the right state of mind, with the right purpose and intent for his people, caused a trial that showed the whole world what corruption really is and what a bad cops, because there was 4 of them involved there, really are, you know. And I agree with you 100%. Until you get Blacks in policing, Blacks as attorneys, and we can see that on all of these police shooting demonstrations that's going on. You got Black attorneys now who's competent, capable, intelligent, and fearless, out there denouncing, fighting, strategizing, and using the law to bring about a semblance of justice for us, or at least implemental justice as we go along. So you're absolutely right. We've got to, and you got so many parents now don't want their children to be police officers. Talk so bad about the police until your little boy don't dare even want to be a cop or a police officer. And when you can hear your mama hating on somebody, it's difficult for you to take on another attitude to say, well, I can respect these over here because they are not corrupt, you know, but I see those over there, they appear to be corrupt. So I'm going to respect all of them until I determine who they are, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent from me. And then I will make my decision about whether I'm going to obey and cooperate and etc., you know, but I'll do that after and in the right place, like in the court, in civil lawsuits and those kinds of things, in order to protect my life, but to protect my dignity and my civil rights. Go ahead, Hogan, what you said.
Hey, Chief, real quick, let me add this too. Here's another problem we have. We think we're not good enough to be cops. Do you know what's, I don't even want to go that deep. We think we're not good enough to be police officers in our own community because police officer, he couldn't have that. Man, if you knew the past of some, well, that's why Klansman's on the department now. That's another wide subject. But that's another problem we have with people of color wanting to join the police department. Go ahead. That's all I want to say.
Well, you're absolutely, and I'm going to Hogan after this, but you're absolutely right, because see, my grandmother, in order to keep me alive and secure in Alabama as a boy, told me that I couldn't be a police officer because white folk did those things. And I had that intrinsically ingrained in my psyche, and that caused an inferiority complex within me that I thought that I wasn't supposed to even think about being a police officer until I got into Dayton, Ohio, that we are discussing the connection of between us now and discovered that I was just as good as anybody else. And I wanted to be, and I was going to apply for, and I was going to fight to win and to get into the police department. So you're absolutely right. But a lot of those fears and inferiorities are implanted in our children's minds by the ignorance that's coming out of their parents and relatives. Go ahead, Hogan. What do you think?
Okay, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. At the same time, like I say, I'm not saying this as a Muslim. I'm saying this as a Black man. Our churches is absent on all the solutions to Black people's problems. Like the brother said, the church was where we came to get love, where we came to get nourishment, where we came to get all these knowledge and stuff, all these godly powers and stuff. But as a unit, as a whole, I tell the people in my community, the Black church in my community is sitting on at least $15 to $20 million of cash money and assets and all this stuff. With that being said, the Black church should have jobs and opportunities and everything for our community. And I'm saying that as a Black man, one who's out here in the community, passing out CDL books, offering brothers opportunities, trying to get them to come together and let them know that, man, we don't have to be acting like that. We don't have to kill each other. We basically don't even need anybody for anything. We built this country. It's up to our, I mean, could you just imagine, brothers, please listen to me. Could you just imagine if Louis Farrakhan, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, T.D. Jakes, Creflo Dollar, all these people that say that they talking to God and got all these godly powers. Could you imagine if these brothers came together, my brothers? Could y'all just imagine the force that would be? Dick Gregory told me one time when I was in Ohio, he said, listen, if all these Black churches here in Dayton, Ohio would come together with one agenda, in spite of what you believe or your religious philosophy is, let's do this step by step. Do we agree on this? Do we agree on this? Let's move in this direction. Let's do this. Let's do this. Could you imagine that, my brothers, across the country? Could y'all just imagine that power and all the resources that's already there, and you brought them together? How beautiful this thing could be. We wouldn't have to ask nobody for reparation. We wouldn't have to ask nobody for jobs or for loans or for security or that kind of stuff. We built this country. We got this country. We just don't, the level of ignorance is not allowing us to progress and move forward. So until the Black church, which is the backbone, the godly backbone of our community, so these preachers in our community start forming a church union, form a church union that's going to address issues in the community and hold they said change start at the top. So I mean, where else can we look? Where else do we supposed to look except for the Black church to get reparation, to get our souls fed, to offer solutions to our community? I mean, we don't. I mean, I just don't understand why the Black church won't unite and solve our problems. And they have the laws, they have the books, they have everything, man. But it for some reason it's not there. And I mean, like I said, I just couldn't imagine if these brothers had came together, man. That powerhouse that all these brothers have, if they came together.
Well, they are undoubtedly the only institution of power in Black communities that have that or that power to fight other established powers. Now, there's no doubt about that. But then in addition to the ignorance, though, We've got to recognize the fear that exists in our communities. We can look at Black Wall Street, you know, and see what happened when Black folks had the uppityness, my grandmama used to talk about, to become financially independent, you know, Rosewood in Florida, you know. And the man just sent a message up at the Capitol that if you defy me, I will put a hit on you, even if you're in the Capitol building and you are my vice president. I'll send some of my rogues in to hunt you down. You see, that kind of implementation of fear and challenge to guts, you know, some of us as Black men, and I know 3 of them sitting right here now talking to one another, have guts and have the audacity to speak and to stand and to fight. But so many of our Black men just don't have that kind of tenacity, guts, grit, gall, nerve, or whatever you want to call it. Go ahead, Brother Pitts.
I agree with everything you just said. And before I address what you just said, I want to also address, because I wanted to get this out when it came to law enforcement, because law enforcement is not going nowhere. You wonder why these white officers, you know, act the way they act. Let me tell you something. It's been only 7 years ago. I was just recently retired, and I'm probably going to take up some law enforcement things going on here now. But anyway, I went through a course with a young man, and he lived in some part of Northern Ohio. Now you got to understand, I'm in my 50s. He's probably in his like 20s, something out of college. Do you know? Well, he went to college. He went through some sort of technical institute up there. But he actually said in class that he never personally met, unless they was mixed and highlight and damn near white, or however my grandma used to say, a Black person. Okay, now I say that to say that you have officers that don't, and Chief knows Lincoln Heights. We always worked in some serious Black communities and white. I mean, it wasn't like a farm. You better be ready to do the job. But we was raised like that. We're Black. We've been around each other. These white officers haven't. So when they go, so they went through all that academy, and you know, it really pisses me off that you had to have some course to tell somebody this is not how you treat. I've had WUSOC courses. I could name a lot of different. What I need that? Well, you just don't do that anyway. But these officers, they come out of white communities, and that's why I say we need Black people. There's no other way around. There is no other way around. These white officers come in there, they can't deal with you. Man, I know you. You might see me at Spunky's. You hear me? Hear what I'm talking about, Chief? You might see me at Spunky's off duty. You might see me at Napoleon's. Because hey, listen, this is my off duty time now. Although he's a strong chief, so you better not be doing that too stupid. But I wasn't scared to go to no bar, because I patrolled it in uniform. You got me. Anyway, and you ain't gonna get that white boys. So when they interact with you, they scared as hell. Submit the floor.
Brother Hogan?
I agree, my brother. I just wish that my brothers would, like I say, we would come together and stop this murders of our own people. If we follow God's law, life for life, and let these brothers know that there's consequences when you go out there and take another brother's life, you got to give yours up. this level of ignorance would come down, and we would get to the point where our ancestors wanted us to be. These brothers would put these guns down because they will have consequences. And we'll start to love each other until we come together on that one particular issue. Listen, you can vote, you can have streets paved with gold, you can have the best educated mind, but if your child getting his brains blowed out by some ignorant person over here, and you ain't got no solution to that problem, all that other stuff don't even mean nothing. If you ain't out there trying to save these babies' lives, once you get a plan to actually save some lives, then you're actually doing something. Once you get a plan to save these black kids' lives and tell these brothers that's ignorant and stupid that they can't do this and they got consequences for doing that, they will stop it. They will put the guns down. You will see this level of ignorance come down. And then you'll see brothers start to respect life. You know what I'm saying? Look, when I go into the store to buy a $2 bottle of water, I go in the store to go to the back counter, pick up a bottle of water, come to the front, set it on the counter, reach in my pocket, give a guy $20 out my pocket. He give me my change. I put the change in my pocket. I walk out the door. I got a 357 Magnum in my face talking about give me $10. Give me $10. This ain't no white supremacist stuff right here. This is black ignorance. This is pure black ignorance. Man, I swear to God, I'm standing there looking at this guy telling me to give him $10. I got a 357 Magnum. I'm sitting there, I feel like I'm drowning, standing on dry ground. I feel like I'm drowning. I can't breathe. My throat choked up. I can't hardly see. I can't hardly hear nothing. Only thing I'm saying to myself, God, I know I ain't supposed to die like this. I know I ain't supposed to die like this. I'm supposed to die out there on the battlefield helping people. I'm supposed to be out there helping people. I just looked at the other brother said, man, give him the money, man. He got a gun. It was just God mercy. I just turned and walked away. I just turned my back and walked away. I was expecting to hear a gunshot or be bust across the head or something. Man, I went home, I cried and I prayed and I fasted for 3 days trying to just, God, please take this off my heart. Please take this off my heart. Please take this off my mind. I mean, why me anyway? What was the purpose of that happening to me? But then the point of it is that until we get this black ignorance under control, and start punishing the people that's perpetrating these crimes, we ain't gonna never come up out of this. If we ain't out there trying to save brothers' lives and little babies' lives, we can forget about it. We can forget about it. All the other stuff, it don't even matter. Your vote don't count. Your nothing don't even matter if you do whatever you have to do. Do whatever you have to do. It's a war on babies. It's a war on black babies. And until we fight the enemy within our own community, within our own selves, nobody ain't gonna ever respect us letting our own babies get killed. I promise you, the devil could never push this stuff off on anybody else. When we as black people do stuff good, we the best in the world at it. It cannot be, you can't supersede it. When we mess stuff up, you can't untangle it. You know what I'm saying? That Satan could never push this off on white people because we done messed it up so bad that they just, no, we ain't gonna touch that. Satan could never push this off on Asian or Indian people to go out there and just kill our babies like that. So like I say, my mind is made up that until we go to war with our own people and drive this level of ignorance down in our community and our black men and stop making them be just dumb, ignorant black men. It ain't no men. I don't even want to say the other word. But until we drive this level of ignorance down, we ain't nobody gonna respect us. God, I see why God got his thumb on the scale against black people. We don't even care. We won't even save our own babies' lives. Man, that is heartbreaking. That ought to make every one of us want to go to war. You know what I'm saying? And I say this, and I mean it, because in the FBI, they ain't following me around and tapping my phone and going by my friend's house and going by my jobs, going by jobs that I work, because I'm out here lying or trying to run some kind of scam artist or involved in drugs or some type of criminal enterprise. They doing that because this message is serious, brothers. Support the death penalty, brothers. Talk to your preacher, talk to your politician. We need the death penalty in our community to hold people accountable and drive this level of ignorance down. If we don't do that, don't nothing else even matter. We can forget about all the other sweet talk and all the other stuff. It ain't gonna matter. Ain't nobody gonna respect you if you don't even respect the life in your own community. These mothers carrying these babies around in their womb for 9 months and being sore and can't hardly get up and down and dealing with all these pains and stuff. And then to see this, to read in the paper with this child up there in North Carolina, one of the Carolinas, I just read it on my phone the other day, to get her and her 3-month-old baby shot and killed, and he's got these 3 dudes that, you know what I'm saying, got their face up there. Man, I mean, like I say, man, I can't even hear white supremacy right now. I can't even hear none of that stuff right now because black ignorance is so high. And until we drive that down, man, I mean, it's just heartbreaking, man. It's heartbreaking.
Well, when you get up here where I am, you'll be able to look and see it, both of them at the same time, because white supremacy has this problem, and it perpetrates it 100% daily. And, you know, black ignorance, too, is there with its faults, and that's perpetuated daily. So we have to teach and preach and think from all different angles. One-dimensional thinking is one way to look at stuff, but 3-dimensional thinking, have you seen around corners of it, you know? So I agree with you 100%, and I denounce the ignorance that you described 100%. But see, one of the things that I know as a senior is that a man is what he eats, what he drinks, what he thinks, and what he hears, and what he does. I don't know whether I'll double up on one of those or not, but eat, drink, think, and do, you know. So when we are eating wrong, when we are drinking wrong, when we are thinking wrongly, when we are acting wrongly, you see, it's difficult to get in through all of those bad habits that we have to penetrate to the point of consciousness about what we ought to be. And the ignorance that you describe begins with each one of us. You know, we can point out a finger like you Hogan, alluded to a few minutes ago, at white folks all we want to. But until we walk up to the mirror, like Michael Jackson advocated, and look in that mirror and question that person that we see in that mirror about where are you, who are you, why are you, how are you, and etc., then we're not going to have much right to go out here and start trying to challenge anybody else about those who's, what, whys, and hows. So the change that we need to address many of the problems that we've talked about, or all of them, is within us. And I am glad that we 3 have the galls and audacity and intelligence to come together and talk about it. I'm recording it, I'm going to put it out there for brothers to hear. And I'm hoping that it will cause some brother somewhere to look into the mirror and examine himself, look at the problems that we have articulated here, and dedicate himself or commit himself to come out and get busy to bring about some of the changes that are needed in our community. That's my last word. Brother Pitts, what's yours?